Alright, so we got the bottom seal and we got the foam insulation. Now we're going to do the third thing, which is sealing the outside. You can see where the sun is coming through. That's going to also let draft, and so we need to stop that. So we're going to install weather stripping today. And you have to be careful with stucco. If anything, you probably shouldn't do this, because as soon as you start breaking this barrier, you can let water inside the wall. So you have to be very careful if you're going to do this and kind of know what you're doing. So if you have any holes in the wall, like when I bought this house, they had this nice butterfly here. Move it out of the way, look what we got. So it looks like somebody had put some kind of a security camera there, something like that. Now this is going to tell us a lot of how this stucco was installed. And based on the research I did, I believe this is called Western One Coat, which is something they use a lot in Nevada, California, and Arizona. So that's the sheathing, which goes right against the wall, and a vapor barrier, 1-inch foam board, which this looks more like about a 1/2 inch, and then a lathe, which is the wire, and then Portland cement. And then there's the color coat that goes on top. So I think that's what we're dealing with here. And of course, anytime that you're going to be doing this, you should just check and see what the manufacturer and see what they say as far as putting holes in. And then the other thing we're going to be dealing with is this keypad. The keypad is a little closer than I think I would like, so it's probably going to be interfering. We might have to cut around it, but we'll see about that when we get to it. So when you get the weather stripping, you want to make sure that the color matches. Now you can get white and you can use like a latex-based paint and you can paint it, but I don't personally like that, because if it cracks or somebody nicks it or something like that, then it'll look pretty ugly. So I got this pack. It's just a little sample pack with a couple different colors. So we got gray, I'm not sure what the SS is, desert tan, and then almond. So we can just kind of take these and throw them up there and get about as close of a match as you can get. Now I went with the almond because it looks pretty good, I think, and it's going to look pretty good against the door. And plus, almond is a fairly common color, so getting matches for the almond is going to be a lot easier for me. I'm going to need to caulk it, and I want the caulk to match, so I'm going to be using this DYNAFLEX 230, and this is almond colored. So I just kind of squirted out a dab right there, and you can see the color is fairly close. These are the screws I'm going to be using. They are Mellewell, 3/4 of an inch long. They're stainless steel. The stainless steel is important because they're going to be anti-corrosive. And that's important because you don't want streaks running down your walls. I'm not going to be too precious about painting it. And so I looked around for the closest thing I could find to matching this. And what I found was this. This is Krylon Color Max Paint and Primer. This is Satin Almond. And the things I was looking for that were most important were, of course, the color. It needs to be outdoor rated because it's going to get hit by the sun. I don't want it to fade. It's good on metal, which most of these are. Quick drying, says it dries in minutes, and it's a paint and primer. I'm going to let that dry, then I'll come back, shuffle them up, do it again. And I think the color came out pretty good. It was very light when I first sprayed it on, but as it dries, it kind of darkens up a bit. So since all we're going to be seeing is the head, I think that's going to look pretty good. So here's the weather stripping, and you can see I've got it kind of laid out, and I've got some weight on both ends because it was coiled up in a box. I need to straighten that out. So I got a long piece here, and I got 2 short pieces over here. So on the side of the garage door, you've got the stucco, and then you've got what's called J metal. So this is essentially just like sheet metal that's bent. So first it goes in like this, and then it gets bent to go around this edge, and then it gets bent again to go around this edge. And I got these alligator anchors, call them togglers. They're about 1 inch long, so I can set that here, and I can see that it's not going to go all the way to the back side, which is good because I don't want to be trying to drill through this metal. So I was looking down the wall just to see if I could see any damage, and of course I did find some. It looks like somebody hit this thing at some point. And if I look in there with a flashlight, I can kind of see foam in there behind it. So that means that there's only going to be about 3/8 of an inch to a 1/2 of an inch of the cement, which is kind of good, kind of bad. It's good because I don't have to drill too awful far, but it's also kind of bad because there isn't going to be as much material to hold the screw. So if I was to try to use really long anchors, it wouldn't make any difference. So I've had this sitting on here for about a day, and this was curling up quite a bit, so I'm going to see if this actually helps. Okay, so it helped. Still curling up a little bit, but it's definitely way better than it was. So I want to measure for the top piece first, and the easiest way to do that is actually to measure on the bottom. So I need to make sure that this is straight all the way up, perfectly level, because if it's not, then the measurement will be off. So the way I'm going to do that is with this laser level. So at the bottom it's fairly flush, at the top it's off by about 3/16 of an inch, so I can't really rely on the bottom here. At the bottom it's off by a fairly considerable margin too, so I can't rely on that either. On the back of this weather stripping there's actually these measuring marks, so that's going to make this a lot easier. When you nail or screw this in, you're supposed to do it between every 8 and 18 inches. So this, between these two marks, is 6, 12, 18. I'm going to try to go for the maximum that I can, and the only reason I'm doing that is because what I don't want to do is make a perforated edge in that concrete. So I'm going to be using this. This is a third hand by FastCap. Just like that. And then when I squeeze this, it kind of jacks it up the rest of the way. Kind of see right here where I marked it. I'm going to put this in the saw and cut it there. So I'm going to be using a number 8 screw. I'm going to try a 1/8 drill. I'm going to go about 2 inches in for my first screw. And then I'll start marking as if this was my my beginning point. So 12, 6, 12, 6. And the last one is a little bit longer than 18, so I'm just going to go with that, 2 inches in. So I want to get this up. I want the flap to go against the garage. I want it to be pressing against it, but not pressing too hard. As you can see, I can move the garage a bit, and as the wind occurs, it's going to be moving it too. I just want to get a decent press. That's good enough to get my first 2 screws in. And I'm not going with the hammer drill yet. I'm going to use the regular drill. And the main point of this is just to tack some marks up. And that actually drilled really soft. So I've got the depth stop set to about 1 inch. So as soon as that hits the concrete, we should be at the correct depth. So this is my hammer drill. I got it set to hammer. This is a 3/16 bit, and I'm using that because that's what the anchor requires. Right through. Pretty easy. Even though this has all kinds of cracks and it's not even close to being correctly waterproofed, I am going to show you the right way to do this. So I've got this DYNAFLEX 230. This is the clear one. The only reason I'm using the clear one right here is because you're not going to see it. And I've got some extra of this stuff. I got this nice caulking gun. It's actually got a hole right here just for nicking the tip. I'm going to try to get it as close to the end as I can. That way I can kind of fit it inside. First I'll blow it out. I'm going to drop the anchor in. Might get a little messy. There we go. Okay, that's pretty good. And the really good thing about this is you can really barely see that. So even if I had to take this thing down, which is actually the main reason I'm using the anchors, I I can pull this thing off, put up a new one, and you won't even be able to tell. So this one is right where that damage was over here, so I think a lot of the caulk is just going up and filling a cavity. Now this one is also cut a little long, which is good because I'm going to need a little bit extra. You can see as I butt it up that there's kind of a gap here even when it's butted up here, so I'm going to have to try to trim this part out a little bit. That's a lot better. Now either way, I'm going to caulk it, but having it closer just makes me feel a little bit better. I want to take it all the way to the ground, 81 7/8. But at any rate, I want to cut this about a ½ inch short because I don't want water to sit underneath it. And some people say 1 inch, but I'm going to go with a ½ inch. This is actually going to just fit behind this remote. So that's good. So this right here is what's called the weep screed. So that's where if water did go into the wall, it would run out the bottom under here. And this is called the stem wall. So that is definitely for sure solid concrete. That's basically the foundation for the house. So I want to try and get it, because there's J metal here. I want to put a screw in right here and see if I can get away with not drilling into the concrete. So this side's going to butt up against, and I need to trim either this one or this one. And I'm going to trim this one. Essentially all that's going to do is it's going to say whichever one you trim is going to go in front. So that's what we got. And the last step is the caulk. Now that's a seal. So that's it. That was the last step. We got the bottom seal, we got insulation on the back, and we got the weather stripping. So with that, this is going to be about as insulated as it can get. With this garage being inside my house, that's going to really help with keeping everything cool in the summer or warm in the winter.